Welcome to the preview for Chapter 9 from U.S. History, Expanding Markets and Moving West. The objectives for the chapter include: I can explain the causes and consequences of Western settlement. It's our whole Western expansion of the country. And also, I can summarize the events surrounding the independence of Texas and the war with Mexico. So we're going to be looking at a number of relationships between the people of Texas, Mexico, the United States, independence, war, and how Texas actually came to become a part of the United States. Let's move on and take a look now at Section 1. Section 1 is entitled The Market Revolution. And the main idea here are the fact that technological changes created greater interaction, more economic diversity among the regions of the nation. That's our main idea we want to be paying attention to. And why does it matter? Well, markets today are still linked with new technologies, and now we're looking at globalized trade. So the whole beginning of markets and trade and the impact on our economy in the history of the U.S. Has been important from then right through until today. Here are the terms and names that you're going to want to pay particular attention to. Tomorrow in class, you'll be responsible for being able to define the terms, the names, and also being able to use them in a sentence that makes sense in the context of this section. So we have specialization, market revolution, capitalism, entrepreneur, telegraph, John Deere, Samuel F.B. Morse, and Cyrus McCormick. And very quickly, specialization, it has to do with farming, and it's the raising of one or two crops for sale rather than a variety of foods for personal use. Market revolution, economic changes where people buy and sell goods rather than make them themselves. Capitalism can be defined as an economic system in which individuals and businesses control the means of production. Entrepreneur is a business owner. Telegraph, device that sends messages by wires. Samuel F.B. Morse was the inventor of the telegraph. John Deere, actually inventor of the steel plow. And Cyrus McCormick, inventor of the mechanical reaper. So pay attention to these terms as I go through the preview, because they will all the terms and names will be in the preview in the context of Section 1. And here are the objectives for Section 1. I can describe how industrialization and capitalism impacted the U.S. economy. I can identify the invention that enhanced people's lives and helped fuel the country's economic growth. I can explain how improved transportation and communication systems helped to link America's regions and make them independent. As I go through the preview, pay attention to the objectives and also the links with terms and names. So the first objective, I can describe how industrialization and capitalism impacted the U.S. economy, has to do with the U.S. market's expansion and what was this whole thing known as the market revolution. And it should be noted that the United States experienced great economic changes during the first half of the 1800s. The country became more industrialized. We took a look at that in the last chapter. And one result of this was that workers spent the money they earned on goods made by others. And one of the impacts was it led farmers to change the way that they farmed. Before, farmers raised a variety of crops for their own families. Now they turned to specialization. Specialization, raising one or two crops that they could sell. These changes, the industrial changes, the farming changes, brought about a market revolution in which people bought and sold goods rather than making them for themselves. Now, this process was dependent on capitalism, and capitalism is an economic system in which private business and individuals, they control production in order to make a profit. So the motivation with capitalism is making a profit. And under capitalism, entrepreneurs or business owners, they would invest their money in these new industries. If the industries failed, the entrepreneurs lost their money. However, if the businesses were successful, the entrepreneurs made money and became wealthy. They began making goods to make life more comfortable. So there was a change. It wasn't just goods for survival. Now it was to make things more comfortable. And two examples: vulcanized rubber and sewing machines. Farmers were doing very well in this time. Growing populations in the cities needed more and more food. Farmers began to use machines to plant and harvest the crops that they then sold to the cities. With their cash, farmers bought manufactured goods, and as technology improved, many of these goods grew less expensive. So soon many Americans could afford to buy a variety of these manufactured goods. Now, how did these inventions actually change or impact people's lives in the US? Well, the inventions that were coming along in manufacturing, transportation, and communication all had an impact on people's lives. Samuel F.B. Morse invented the telegraph, and the telegraph enabled people to be able to send messages by wire in a few seconds. So businessmen used this new communication device to transmit orders and relay up-to-date information on prices and sales. Railroads, they used the telegraph to keep trains moving regularly, warn engineers of any safety hazards. By 1854, there were 23,000 miles of telegraph wire across the country. Some other inventions improved transportation. Steamboats made river travel quicker and cheaper. And where there weren't passable rivers, people dug canals, which cut the cost of shipping goods. So right here in New York State, we had the Erie Canal, which reduced freight charges and transportation times. People were also building railroads to move goods. Transporting goods by railroads was more expensive than by canals. However, goods could be moved faster. And eventually, the cost of shipping goods by railroad became less expensive. By 1850, almost 10,000 miles of railroad track had been laid in the United States. By 1859, railroads carried 2 billion tons of freight a year. Now, the third objective talks about how improved transportation and communication linked America's regions and made them more interdependent. One of the things that helped with that was the whole thing in terms of regions developing specialties. The South exported its cotton to England as well as New England. The West sent grain and livestock to the East, and the East manufactured textiles and machinery. The South remained mostly agricultural, raising cotton, tobacco, and rice. The Northeast became the nation's manufacturing center. Workers there made more and better goods at lower prices than ever before. The Midwest became important for farming, and inventions helped make farmers' lives easier. Farmers used a steel plow invented by John Deere to help them to prepare the land for farming. And during harvest time, farmers used the mechanical reaper, a new invention by Cyrus McCormick. And the reaper made it possible for one farmer to do the work of 5. So farmers armed with plows and reapers could shift from farming for the family to producing cash crops such as wheat and corn. And the same trains and canals that brought them plows and reapers from distant factories would then carry their crops to markets to the east and to Europe. So this concludes our preview of Section 1, the Market Revolution.